All right, hi everybody. Thank you so much for coming today to the SRC and PGC Inductions Day 1. Thank you for the snaps. I think we'll get started today. If you know any of your council mates who are still kind of coming in, just let them know that they can just pop into the room. The door is I'll close the door in a second, but they can just come in, and that's all fine. So just a little introduction first. My name is Ashley, and you might have been receiving probably plenty of emails from me already. I'm the administration assistant for the ARC board, and I also help support the councils in my day-to-day. So that'd be the PGC, SRC, and the IRC. So let's get started. I wanted to start with an acknowledgement of country. So firstly, I'd like to acknowledge the Bidjigal, Gadigal, and Ngunnawal people as traditional custodians of the land on which ARC and UNSW operate, and also acknowledge the custodians of the land on which those are dialing in from today. So everyone will be dialing in from different lands. I pay my respects to both elders past and present, and extend that respect to any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders present today. This always was and always will be Aboriginal land. Let's start with a little bit of housekeeping and kind of just what's going on today. Oops, I realized I can't leave the computer too far because there's no mic, and then people online won't be able to hear me. So housekeeping, let's start with the important part, food. Food is everyone's, like the key point. So morning tea, lunch, and afternoon tea will be provided. We will have that brought in, and you guys can enjoy little snacks and breaks in between. I know it's going to be a very long day, so remember to take some food, take some drinks. If you need to go to the bathroom as well, feel free to pop out at any time. So just we'll stick to timings as best as we can. I know we are starting a little bit late, but that's all right. We'll keep rolling through. And then after lunchtime, so about 1:45 to about 2 o'clock, we'll give you guys time to travel down to your respective rooms. So we've got the PGC in Quad GO42, and we've got the SRC moving to Lawrence East 2062. If you are unsure where to go, I can lead the way. I've scouted them out this morning and found out where they are. Please turn your phones to Do Not Disturb. The slides will be shared afterwards, as well as the recording will be shared. So you can review any information that you're unsure of. If you have any questions, you can go back to the slides and have a look at them. Ask questions as we go. So feel free to just raise your hand or pop a question in the chat if you're joining in online as well. We'll answer them as best as we can. And if you have any questions afterwards, of course, never hesitate to reach out to us. And the exits, we have the door there, and the toilets are just down the hallway to the right-hand side, I believe. So what are we doing today? We've got a pretty packed agenda. So we'll start with part 1, and that will be an introduction from our lovely CEO, Shelley Valentine. She was wandering around talking to you guys all this morning. Then we'll meet the ARC team and a few of the department heads, and I'll tell you about all the different departments that ARC runs and how you'll be able to interact with them during your time on council. And then we'll have marketing come in. So a lot of the SRC and the PGC will work with marketing quite closely to help kind of promote your events, to reach out to students. So marketing will come in and do their little piece for you. And then we'll have David from ARC Legal and Advocacy come in to talk about the services that ARC offers when it comes to supporting students in terms of legal advice and things like that. We'll have a little break, and then we'll launch into some of the administration side, which I will be leading with Ellie Kamateros, who you'll meet soon. She is the executive assistant. And then Hannah Jareth, who is the governance manager. She was just in the room, but she's just popped out to grab something. So we'll lead you through some of administration, some event planning things, as well as some grievance management as well. And then we'll split you guys into your councils, and you guys can meet each other, show your council visions, and meet your new presidents and your Gen Secs as well. So that's the second half of the day. It will be all mostly led by you guys.
Everybody okay if I stay sitting because I didn't bring my glasses and I need to take a computer? Okay. Yeah, okay. I was like, I can't see anything that's happening on that screen. Sorry if we didn't catch it. I'm Shelley. My friend is a she, her. I'm the CEO of ARC. My favourite place on campus is, I have to pick an ARC space, don't I? Otherwise that would be weird. Let's go to Roundhouse today and not Oslo tomorrow. So I'm gonna take it onto my shoulders to make up the time that we're behind so that everybody gets breaks at the correct time. So I'm going to power through a mass of slides. If you do have questions, just raise your hand. Don't just yell them out, it's fine. And I will do my best to answer them. If we're getting into anything in depth, you might kind of park that and come back to it a little bit later, or always welcome to have visitors into my office. For anyone that doesn't know where I live under the stairs in the quadrangle in a fishbowl office. So you can always see if I'm there or not. Like it literally is like a magnifying glass in the middle of in the office. So please just drop on in and say hi. I'm going to really quickly take you through some things about ARC. I would love to think that most of you have a little bit of an overview of ARC, but if not, we will give you one. So just for everyone's reference, ARC was established in 2007 and we came about following voluntary student unionism. Don't get me started on that, I'll talk about that for 5 hours. We came about following the amalgamation of 4 student bodies on campus. And we formed one singular entity to represent kind of the traditional student organisation structure on campus. We are a company limited by guarantee. We are governed under the under ASIC and ACNC. We are an independent organisation from UNSW. However, we are funded by UNSW and we are constitutionally bound to UNSW. So whilst we are independent, we do have some quite strong strings that link into UNSW as well. We are governed by a board of 15, which I will run through in a little bit. We have, it says up there 65, but at the moment probably about 70 permanent staff, and we employ over 200 casuals, the majority of which are students. We are essentially, actually no, I'll talk about strategy in a second. I need to make up time, we'll power through. Obviously, none of our kind of expectations, anyone in elected positions or employment positions are very different. Our goals really are for you all to fulfill the responsibilities of your role within the parameters that are set within policies and procedures. And the foundation of that is that we would just really ask that no matter who you're working with, whether it be other students, other council members, the university, that you're treating everyone with respect. Like we have 75 pages worth of policies and procedures, which I'm sure you will all be very, interested in reading or have read before you've signed your letter of offer. But the foundation of all of that is that we just want everyone to treat each other with respect. And we completely understand that often within the SRC and the PGC, there is quite significant differences of opinions and passionate debate, but it all comes down to the fact that if we have that foundation of respect, we can explore our differences in a very safe way. I mentioned the ARC board. I'm going to run you through it a little bit. So the ARC board, as I mentioned, is a board of 15. Yes, that is a lot of people. We are predominantly students, but we do have some non-students on the board as well. Our non-student members are made up by 2 UNSW alumni and 2 UNSW staff, which are essentially recommended to us by UNSW Council. We have 8 students that are elected directly to the board. Essentially, they do 2-year terms, and we elect 4 each year, so they kind of swap each year. We also have Billy and Ada sitting on the board as the SRC and PGC presidents in an ex officio capacity, and then I also sit on the board in an ex officio capacity as well. Effectively, the board is responsible for managing the strategy and the big picture of what ARC does and delegating to the operational components to the organisation itself. And it's an opportunity for us to hear from a number of sources how and what our future interactions and activities should be, and that is what we're focusing on. And I'm going to run you through a little bit of our new strategic plan in a minute as well. We'll give you some understanding of kind of what our focuses are in the next 3 years. I don't think anyone can see that. It's quite blurry. I don't even see, I think there are blue boxes up there, who knows. But that is essentially our board, but we might just skip past that. Actually, no, I'll touch on it. So just for reference, our UNSW directors, because often we get asked that question, are the current registrar of UNSW, Jonathan Strauss, and the director of asset management, who is Amelia Anderberg. And they are both, I think, in their 2nd or 3rd year on the ARC board itself. So the ARC board runs, essentially the workhorse of the ARC board is our subcommittees. And this is the structure of our board here. So we have 5 subcommittees that essentially do the vast majority of the heavy lifting and then make recommendations to board. They are the finance subcommittee, which, surprise, surprise, does finance. The nominations and remuneration subcommittee, which often takes through recommendations regarding elections and honoraria, etc., etc. Our student development committee, which is important in the context of our councils, as that is where the recommendations on charters, etc., feed through that come through to board. So when you're all running through the changes to charters, they get taken up through our student development committee. That is also the committee that has kind of broad oversight for things like clubs and volunteering. Our audit and risk subcommittee, which is probably our busiest subcommittee, obviously with our kind of ever-changing regulatory environment that we work in, but we look after very obvious kind of the safety and the risk of the organisation. And we also work through kind of all of our internal and auditing processes through that committee as well. And then our technology committee, which is our newest committee, is really there to focus both on how we're delivering our technological evolution at ARC, but also to help support us managing the increasing kind of cyber risks out there in the space. So that is our structure. And then we have nominally under there is obviously all of our councils that operate in the semi-autonomous bodies. So there is the PGC and the SRC, and then we also facilitate the IRC, which brings together all of the residents on campus. Any questions? No, great. We just put up some contacts up there, which aren't going to make any sense to you until you get this in your inbox. But effectively, realistically, just encouraging you, if you do have any questions, the first point of contact you all should be your presidents. But if you do have kind of any admin or governance related questions, we've got Ash and Hannah's details up there. And if you have any kind of broader questions or you're not sure, please feel free to reach out to myself or Anya, who is the chair of the ARC board. Anya sends her apologies. She's actually at the Tesco conference today, so was unable to come. Usually get to listen to her dulcet tones and not mine, so I apologise. But I'm trying to, make up for it as best I can. Usually at this point in the presentation, we run you through some very visionary documents about our strategy. We are in the end of our 3-year strategic plan right now, and our current strategy has not yet been approved by the board. We expect it to be approved in 2 weeks. So I am going to kind of take you through what I believe it to be, but I will asterisk the fact that this is unconfirmed, and some slight things may change, but realistically, we're only talking about the broad pillars, so hopefully there won't be too much change. We are building and have been building our new strategy for about the last 14 months, and our goal is to create a strategy that spans the next 3 years from 26 to 28. And we have kept a number of things within the strategy similar to our previous strategies. Primarily, we have kept the same mission, and that is to create the best student experience. Often we get comments about this mission of the fact that it's quite ambiguous. But our response to that is the fact that, and I think most of the people in this room can recognise as well, that student experience means different things to different people. For some people, it might be actively participating on the SRC for the 5 years of their degree. For others, it might be joining one club. For others, it might be having one legal appointment that helps support you from a solution to a housing issue to enable you to focus on your studies. So we like to make sure that we have the breadth to be able to develop and deliver an offering that has something for the vast majority of students in it. We have also maintained the same values. These values were new to our last strategic plan, so they have only been in circulation for the past 3 years, and we thought they still represented our organisation appropriately. And those values are students at the centre, which is pretty obvious. If we don't have students at the heart of what we're doing, then what are we here for? And we're not really fulfilling our goal as a student organisation. We have an ambition to kind of do good things, both in what we deliver, but also what we're accomplishing within our own internal processes. In it together, we are very much a typical not-for-profit, and often that requires us to kind of come together to deliver exceptional outcomes as an organisation. Obviously, we work in an educational environment, so we need to be always learning to make sure that we are delivering relevant aspects to the demographics that are engaging with us. And also, we do enjoy having some fun, so that's our other value. So the next slide is where we get some new things. So this year we have kind of 4 key domains that we are focusing on for our next 3 years. They're up there as kind of broad statements, but the things under them are really trying to accomplish and move forward some of our student deliverables. The one I want to focus on a little bit is the last one, which is our new focus area, which is around essentially delivering a whole raft of new initiatives in the cost of living space. But the 3 before that are get everyone connected, and that is about us supporting essentially what we like to call our community of communities. So all of our collectives and SRC and PGC initiatives, all of our clubs, which obviously form the backbone of student life at UNSW, and supporting essentially strong orientations and making sure that everybody has the opportunity whether or not they want to engage with that, but to connect with others and form and belong to UNSW and to ARC. The next one is about support. Obviously, that has some very practical elements in the fact that we are seeking to expand our legal and advocacy service, our visa advice service, etc., but also making sure that we are expanding our wellness and wellbeing initiatives, especially around that kind of pre-intervention space, which is something that we've been working on for the last few years. The next one is the fact that, we all understand that increasingly students are focusing on post-education outcomes and what their degree is going to get them from a job perspective earlier and earlier. And we want to make sure that we are embedding those mechanisms to equip students to be better prepared to step outside of uni life, not just from what they're taking from their academic studies, but what they're taking from engaging in volunteering and club leadership opportunities and as elected office bearers on councils, etc. The area that we are kind of investing the most growth in, however, is this cost of living focus. I don't need to tell anyone in here that it's obviously something that's been quite impactful over the past 3 years, and we have been growing our initiatives here anyway. Things like Food Hub, etc., are kind of forming the foundation of our core deliverables in this space. But over the next 3 years, we are rapidly expanding what that looks like and expanding things like subsidised food, financial counselling. We are growing Food Hub to ensure that it isn't just providing kind of rotational core food aspects, but we're embedding personal hygiene, parental needs, etc., into that service as well. It is across multiple domains, but food is a really strong focus for us. This is one where we really hope to work with UNSW and deliver things like the canteen, etc. And if we're not the ones to deliver, we want to make sure that we're continuing to advocate to UNSW that it needs to be delivered. So this is something that obviously we will work closely with the SRC PGC on as well. And obviously all of these things are underpinned by having an organisation that is agile enough to respond to that evolving need. So we do have some enablers inbuilt into the strategy as well, which is effectively about making sure that we have good governance with students at the centre of that governance, that we have good systems and people, that we are here not just for the next 2 to 3 years, but we're here for the long term, and that comes about through our financial growth and stability, and also that we have a strong branding and partnerships to support us moving through that structure. That is the strategic plan in a nutshell. As I said, not approved yet, but fingers crossed it'll be approved in a week and a half. Now I did have kind of some slides around staff, surveys and prioritisation, but I think because we're running a little behind, I will skip them and we can maybe run through them at another time. I do quickly want to run through UNSW. So everyone in this room will have different interfaces with UNSW, and you'll have different connection points. Broadly, this is kind of their very nebulous, next slide, nebulous kind of leadership chart. There will be people on this chart that you will never ever see, and there'll be people that you see quite frequently. Obviously, the VC is Attila Brungs, and under the VC, they have their university leadership team, which is made up of a variety of vice chancellors. Vice chancellors that we typically have the most to do with is the Vice Chancellor of Education and Student Experience, which is Sarah Madison. And we also have a lot to do with the not necessarily the VP in this space, but we have a lot to do with the equity engagement space with the people on the queer officers, ethnocultural, disability, etc. will be invited to ongoing meetings with their inclusion division, and there is a lot of feedback that they kind of gather from councils. And there are a number of other divisions on the UNSW leadership chart that do set up kind of regular meetings with representatives from the councils, particularly when they're going through change or particular issues. So I definitely encourage you all to kind of contribute to those meetings and make sure that you can have your voice and perspectives heard in that space. But you will have different touch points. A lot of you would probably already have touch points with a number of kind of either deans or faculty leaders, etc. I definitely encourage you all to leverage the connections you already have. And if you do need additional touch points, please just reach out. We can kind of tell you the best pathway to follow, because UNSW is incredibly confusing when it comes to how to get anything done. And I say that having worked here for a really long time, I still don't know. And I've been here for over 15 years, and they're pretty constantly evolving in who's in what role. So please just let us know if you're trying to get something done, and we'll try to guide you into the right direction, or at least be able to take it to a point at the top of this leadership chart so they can kind of point us to where it needs to go in their kind of 6,000 strong staff organisation. UNSW has also just released a new strategy. It is called Progress for All. I'm sure everybody has read it online. It is a 10-year strategy. This year is their foundational year, and then it has 3 trienniums. Trienniums? Who knows how to trienniums? Yes? Okay, I think they just put that in there to be confusing. And the first triennium starts next year. Their strategy has kind of 9 pillars, which is made up of 5 impact pathways and 4 impact focus areas. Whenever I think the naming conventions in our strategy are a little much, I look at UNSW's and I think, okay. The impact pathways are effectively about the core elements of their organisation. So you see the first one being about education, through accessible education power. Then we have one on research. Then we have one on networks across the global sphere. We have one about people and culture, and we have one about processes and systems. So kind of very similar with a lot more words regarding what they focus on. The interesting thing about their strategy is the next part, which is the kind of the impact areas that are informed by the societal impact framework, which is kind of a new area of UNSW strategy where they're seeking to kind of turn the dial on 4 key issues that they think they are best placed to kind of shift that global dial on. There is going to be a lot of focus on these areas over the next 3 years, actually over the next 9 years. And we've seen success in linking initiatives that you may be trying to push through to some of these impact areas. They have essentially a division which is about crafting the narrative about what university is doing in this space, and they are kind of open to wanting to make changes at a local level as well. So when we were pushing some of the things around food security, we were linking it to kind of social prosperity and enabling healthy lives, etc. And we got a little bit more traction in divisions that normally wouldn't have really been receptive to us having some on the ground plan. UNSW leadership is, there is a lot of executive function at UNSW. Kind of the 3 main ones are up on the screen. That is University Council, which is effectively their governing body. It has 15 members. It has 2 student members, 1 undergrad and 1 postgrad. And they meet kind of every 4 to 6 weeks, and they govern the university. The operational aspects of the university are governed by the ULT, which is effectively the Vice Chancellor's direct reports. And then we have the academic board, which the SRC and PGC presidents also sit on, along with a number of other student reps as well. And they are the body essentially responsible for all of the academic function at UNSW, including the policy and academic standards. So I mentioned before that UNSW is, we are independent from UNSW, but we do operate under formal agreements with UNSW that do require us to comply with their policies. Obviously, we live and breathe on their campus as well. So we are bound to those requirements and policies, as are our elected leaders. The frameworks, quite bluntly, as I sit in their building, aren't perfect. And there has been a lot of debate around a few of them in particular, but unfortunately they are the parameters in which we operate under at the moment. So I've just listed, there is a lot, but I've just listed the core elements below, and there's links within the document when it gets sent out. I do encourage you all to become familiar with these documents. The first one is the UNSW Code of Conduct, which, you know, is pretty self-explanatory. Again, the elements that we were talking about before about being founded in respect are basically replicated from that document. But this is the code that we do have expectations everyone will comply with. In terms of activities and activation, there is a lovely policy called the UNSW Campus Policy. It's a interesting one. I believe it may be going for review in the next 6 months or so. So we will obviously ask people for feedback on that one. But at the moment, it does set out how we are able to engage with the campus. We do encourage everyone to work with UNSW security for any events, activities, and to manage any instances, particularly in large-scale events. I typically, and this may not be everyone in the room's experience, but I found UNSW security relatively open to working with events that UNSW may or may not want to happen on their campus. They are actually, I think, there just to make sure that they know what's going on and to keep everyone safe. We will set up meetings for Billy and Ada to meet with the head of security so that you have all of those connections, and I know a number of you already do have those connections as well. We do also ask that if you are running any rallies, protests, or large gatherings, that you fill out the public assembly risk management form that UNSW have recently created. The link is there. And then our favourite one of all time is the promotional and advertising guidelines, which more commonly known as where to poster. Please be familiar with those. Otherwise, I get a litany of really angry emails from UNSW, and it's just not fun for anyone. I don't want to be angry at people about posters. Let's just do what we can to comply with the guidelines. Does anyone have any questions? I have gone 1 minute over and I made up 15 minutes. So I apologise for not giving any kind of deep, meaningful statements about ARC, but if you have any questions, let me know. No, covered it all. We know it. Okay, great. I did just want to say before we move on though, congratulations. I know we gave each other a round of clapping before, but putting your hand up for elected positions at UNSW is never easy. And I think we saw throughout the elections, both PGC and SRC, that it was a very contested year this year, which always makes me really happy because effectively we're saying that, you know, people want to represent the students of UNSW, and I have no doubt all of you do an exceptional job. If you do have any questions about anything, please let me know. Like, even if it is just a guiding where to go question, if I can kind of save you some time and angst, I would rather do that than not. So just let me know. And welcome. Thank you.
All right, well, thank you so much, Shelley. So as you will have seen people kind of trickling into the room, we have our lovely exec and management team here to present about the ARC departments, and you'll be working a lot with the departments. So it's kind of just an overview of who you can reach out to and what can they help you with. Let's start. Steph, do you want to start first? I don't want to put you on the spot, but
Hi, everybody. My name is Steph. My pronouns should wait till the right before I start speaking. My name is Steph. My pronouns are she, her. I am the director of student programs and wellbeing here at ARC. So I look after the very cool teams that do things in our volunteering space, in our mental health and wellbeing space, and now that expands into cost of living and all of the very cool initiatives that we're doing with students there as well. I have been in and around ARC for many years. I studied at UNSW. I did my undergrad in commerce and psychology, and I loved it. Spent a lot of time in Matthews. And now I just love to do things for students outside of that as well. If you ever have any questions about getting involved in working with volunteers, in doing anything for mental health wellbeing things, if you're interested, or any of that like new cost of living space as well, please reach out and I'd love to set up some time. We can chat, or I can introduce you to Valentina, who is our head of wellbeing, or Trina, who is our volunteering manager, and we can work together.
you want to come over here just because like the mic is attached to the computer.
Oh,
I think you're still heard, but like
yeah.
it's closer here. No, it's a little bit closer here.
Cool. I'm done.
Okay.
I really don't have much else to add. Does anyone have any questions or any things you would like to flag? No, you're all very cool. I'm into it. Nice, that's me.
Thank you, Steph. Okay, let's just go around the room. Beck, you want to come up and just, yeah, around this area, because they told us we don't have a mic. They told us we don't have one.
Hello, I'm Rebecca and I look after the grad shop, which is just up down the road there. We also look after graduations on campus as well. So if you've got any ideas or anything that you want us to sell in the shop that's UNSW merchandise related, let us know and come in the store and see us. We're happy to have a chat. Thank you.
Luke?
Hello, I'm Luke. I'm the Director of Corporate Services here at ARC. My responsibilities are for IT, corporate services, payroll, finance, building services, and risk and safety. So all the exciting bits across the organisation. Me and my team are here to support you. We're excited that you are here and that you are part of the organisation. If there's anything we can do in terms of HR support or IT support, please let us know. Our team are enthusiastic to get involved. So, any questions? No. All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Luke. Chippy?
Good morning. My name's Chippy. If you can work out what my name is within the first 6 months, well done. A lot of people still don't know my first name. I've been here for about 11 years. I'm the Director of Sales. Sorry, that could be something now. And basically, what we do in my department is all the third party. The biggest one's O Weeks, an O Week in February, which is what we're working on now. So any of those third party sponsors or activations that you see around is normally through my team. We do have a very strict sponsorship guideline that we go through, and we're checking out who's coming on and being in front of the students. Sometimes there's some rogue sponsors. They're normally not me, so please don't blame me for them, but we keep an eye on what's going on with them. The other things my department does sometimes is we're working through some different deals for home ground for the coffee, maybe some different alcohol deals for the roundhouse, and anything really that's outside of the normal, like a third party person coming in to make money to run all the student programs. So that's pretty much it. O Week's the biggest one where you see us walking around and doing all that. So any questions on any of that? If you've got any, by all means, the whole team's welcome for any questions anytime, guys. Welcome and enjoy the year ahead.
Okay. So we'll now move into the ARC marketing and social media presentation. We have Alex from the marketing department here who will run you through how to work with marketing to get your events set up, how to get them promoted, and how to kind of just work with the marketing team. Thanks, Alex. You're welcome to plug in the computer or
No, I'll just use
do whatever you need.
It's just buttons, right?
Yeah.
Okay. That should be okay. Alrighty. I'm gonna throw myself under the bus because it's meant to be another person here with me today, but it looks like it would just be me for the moment. Basically, for myself, my name's Alexander Scudder. I'm the marketing manager. Well, that's absolutely a gaslighting lie. I'm the comms manager. My manager is the general manager, Mitchell, who is an executive. If you haven't heard of them, you will. They're like a comet in your life. You'll know when you meet them. But basically, as the comms manager, I manage all the websites, social media, email, that kind of stuff. So that's kind of my remit. Today, I'll just be talking you through how to do job forms, which is our primary way of getting stuff into our studio. I probably should explain how it's set up, actually. So at ARC, we have our marketing team. We have two teams, which is both studio and comm side, which is my team. Again, like I said, we manage the website, the social media, blah, blah, blah. We've got a team of 4. On the other side, we also have studio, which is our design team. There, we've got a studio manager who might walk in at some point. We've got an assistant studio manager as well. And then we've got a handful of designers who design all the amazing things that you see on presentations, the core flutes and signage that you see outside, all that kind of stuff. So hopefully that makes sense. Let's see how it looks. Okay, so I think the first thing that we're meant to talk through is branding. So like any substantial brand out in the world, like your Coca-Colas, your Apples, everyone's ever like heard of these brands and you're familiar with them. The reason why they're so critical is that they are a touch point that people are very familiar with. Imagine like a first year student, they've come onto campus, they're going to be familiar with your SRC and your PGC for the next 3 years. And if you keep it consistent and it becomes identifiable, people will have a bit more of a relationship with your identity, your colors and your signage and things like that. The reason why you emphasize a brand is obviously to build affinity. So again, you kind of transfer your attributes of, wow, that one time I got help, that event that I went to, that was amazing, the sport that was given to me that was really valuable, that transfers onto your next event, your next touch point, your next like chat that you have with that person, which is why you would want to be really consistent. So just to go through them for today, we have the SRC brand guidelines, which I believe will pass on to you later. But to go through them, obviously we have our primary 3 colors that we use on basically everything. And then we have a couple accent colors, which are the collectives and such. And then we also have a one that's for elections and things. You'll see a couple of examples of patterns and stuff and how they're used, and also some bits of signage as well. There's obviously the font up there as well, and a couple other guidelines that is probably too messy to fit on one slide as well. Conversely, same with PGC, you've got your primary colors up the top there, orange, black, and then your secondary colors there, and then a couple other examples. I'm sure you've seen all of this before. Again, the reason why we keep it consistent is people see it once, they're kind of like, oh, I don't really know what it means. Oh, check next time. They'll see it twice, 3 times. Then they kind of know, they get the gist of what you're trying to convey, message, that kind of thing. Hopefully that makes sense. Any questions so far? No? Neat. So obviously SRC PGC didn't just like spawn out of the void last year. It's been around for a while. So I just wanted to talk through a couple existing assets as well, and you'll get access to this in the next couple of weeks. First one, to go through SRC, there is a whole suite of templates for things like banners, social posts, those kinds of things, half of which are on the transfer. Again, this will become more familiar with you, just like branding, I guess. And half of which you'll get access to through Canva. So you can like drop in your own photos and things like that, and you'll get access to all of that as well. Again, just some examples of PGC as well. I think these are print templates. Again, you just chuck in your words and things, and then you can print it off. Again, saves you from having to do all the design work, but also kind of gives that brand consistency and familiarity, that continuation. Again, more digital templates. These ones specifically, I think, are for Canva. I think this is like basically to showcase all the types of things that are currently stocked and templated for PGC, and then we also have SRC as well. Once you're in there, this will become more like familiar to you, but they are sorted by year, and there's a huge archive of stuff that every event that's come through Studio over the past couple of years. So you can always go back to older designs and things and reference that in your future jobs as well. And one thing I'll touch as well, photography. So I'm sure it'll become more important over time, but just long story short, obviously, you can't just take images from the internet. That is illegal under copyright and IP. We have a huge repository of images that you can use that we've taken, and also that SRC and PGC have shared with us over the years. So if you need something like, what would you call it? A networking kind of tea day or an engagement night or whatever, please do find your photos in these. And again, just some examples of stuff that you'll find. Amazing. So hopefully that makes sense. This is if you need something new. So the way that marketing works is you submit a job form, which is kind of the long story short. The way you do what a job form essentially is basically a kind of request that you lodge when you've kind of thought through your event, thought through what kind of design that you're looking for, and then you're ready to get it made. Obviously, if you have questions, we'll work through with you during that process as well. So please, if you don't know what you're looking for, please submit a job form anyways. We'll work with you. But this is just to go through the top level, kind of how we do things. So if you aren't familiar or haven't done it before, this is the ARC intranet. You can start here. If you scroll down, you eventually find the job forms. I think literally right there, that kind of bottom panel there. Click through there, fill out a brief. So within that folder, you'll find the templates. It's just a couple of lines of what your event is for, how many people you're expecting to be there, those kinds of details, and obviously what the kind of department or collective you're from, so we know which brands to use. So once you've done your brief, you just save your brief to the transfer. And like so, you just pop it in under your respective collectives or SRC or PGC. And then what you need to do is, like your uni assignments and such, you just need to share it, and then you can go into the job form. So returning back to the same system, you'll come to a page like this. You just need to log in with your ARC login, separate to your student ID. You'll come to this page, submit a new request, and you pop in your link just in that white box. Basically, you don't need to do anything else. There are times where you need the buttons, but I'm sure over the year, you'll come to learn what those options are. But for now, that's basically all you need to know. Again, kind of reiterating why we do this, the brief just makes sure that Studio is on top of what your job is and when it's due and those kinds of things. They can track and like report on like where it's up to. So if you have any questions or anything like that, we can answer those. And again, if you're having troubles submitting the job form, please reach out by Teams to either Sandra or Tira. They can help you with anything studio related. You'll probably be talking to them and become very familiar with them over the next year anyways. And then also you'll get automated emails when you submit your job form of when it's completed or when it's ongoing and those kinds of things. So please don't worry if it's like in your inbox. And then lastly, again, always save a copy of your own brief. Sometimes it does get mixed up in so many briefs that happen. But if you have a copy as well, it just saves a lot of hassle. Make sure to fill out the job form. Again, that's to make sure that Studio is on top of your job and they can track it. Again, they can always reach out to you as well. And then finally, if there's any updates, just chuck an email or a Teams message to Sandra or Tira, who's just walked in. They can always help you out or anything like that. Any questions before I move on? Neat. And then just a last pointer from Tira is if you have any requests or ideas or anything like that to do with O Week coming up in 2026. I think it's like less than 90 days away now. It's probably less than that now. It's coming very quickly, but we have a very small capacity to do some design work for you. Please just let us know by submitting a job form as soon as you can. Otherwise, that's the first part. Next part is me. So again, coming back to the second part of the marketing team, comms team, made up of 4. I'm the comms manager, so I manage this whole team. And then we also have Katie, who manages ARC and ARC Creative, and also the grad shop, actually. We also have Charlie, who see less of, but manages ARC Sport, Roundhouse, and Homeground accounts. And then finally, we have Emma, who is the wellness comms coordinator as well. So you probably won't meet everyone all the time, but you'll have specific needs and reasons why you talk to individuals specifically. You'll become very familiar with them. Again, we're all basically just graduates and stuff, so please just chuck us a message. We're not that formal. We're not that scary. We can always help you out or help you plan your socials as well. Okay, first off, just want to talk through the website. I'll start off by going through the main parts, which is website. Again, most people know it as like who really uses a website, those kinds of things. But ultimately, it still is the source of truth, and it's yours to run. I think a note that I'll put here that is quite important is with the rise of AI, everyone's like, why do we need websites? Well, ultimately, the AI and chatbots and things like that still rely on websites to scrape, essentially gathering information. So if information on your website is incorrect, the information that like Google summaries and stuff is going to spit out is going to be wrong. So please put effort into your websites and keep them updated. Before I go in and kind of just show you around, the main website areas are obviously your landing page, which is the kind of page that you see when you scan a QR code or anything like that during O Week. It's kind of your start of your journey or your pathways. That's obviously for SRC and PGC. Then you have your informational pages underneath that, which are explaining things like clothing donation bins and those kinds of things. And then separately outside of that, the last page that you'll be in charge of is the event pages as well. We'll have a separate session on inducting you into how to do all these things, but I just want to go through and show what the page looks like, because hopefully you've seen them before. How do I, oh no. Okay. So like I said, this is the main SRC landing page. you'll have this top banner again. This is where you can get in touch and those things. I'm sure you're all familiar. You've got your header and then other bits that you can click into other pages as well. Like I was talking about before, you can also click into these other pages, which you also manage as well. Again, it's not like we're like throwing you into the deep end. Please get in touch if you have questions or queries or just don't know where to start. We can help you out planning these things. But again, these are just pages that you will manage. Lastly, your events will also come into here, just up here. If your events, and if you populate them, they'll populate here alongside ARC events as well. So you'll manage these individual pages. I know this isn't a specific one, but just to show what it looks like and how it appears, you can publish these things as well. Does anyone have any questions about websites so far? Again, we'll get through the nitty-gritty on how to do explicit changes, but any top-level questions? Yes, Hannah? Yes. I can't remember if I was meant to schedule or if it gets scheduled for me, but in the future, there will be a session just for website training. Oh, is that the right button? Yes. Yes, we'll schedule a specific training for those that need it to work, learn how to use it, edit your pages and those kinds of things. But yeah, thank you. Alrighty, the next bit is social media. Obviously, quite a big important one. It is probably the most important way that you're going to be communicating to students. Obviously, for postgraduate students, it's directing possibly even to third parties or networks or partners, those kinds of things. But at a top level, what I would like to say is follow the abundance model. What that basically just means from a marketing context is if you post more, people will know more, right? So the more you post about your coffee networking event or your donation run or things like that, the more chances someone is going to have to see your kind of content piece. The more people are going to read kind of that extra detail of like the date, what the activation is, blah, 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 blah. So the more you try and post, the more that you're going to get students to recognize and get engagement from. And again, the main channel that I've seen used, and again, really happy for you and your strategies to pivot, but the main one that has been consistently used is Instagram. I'll talk through kind of the main channels, but just to go through what's used currently, obviously the Instagram handles are just there, UNSW SRC and UNSW PGC. And then those handles are also used in other channels. There are some variations across Facebook, RedNote, Discord, and WhatsApp as well. That's currently what I'm aware of. But obviously there are other channels out there like TikTok, Twitter, blah, 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 blah. I will leave up to you in terms of what you're able to manage and what you're able to do. But if you have any questions on that, please just reach out and ask. And then just the note before I go through channels is collab with ARC. So a thing that I think most people don't realize until maybe later in the year, which I'll kind of emphasize now, is you can use ARC's account to promote events. We're really happy to collab on Instagram posts and stuff, and we can share kind of the reach that you can get for your accounts. I think it's fair to say that when people think of the SRC Instagram and stuff, it's much more about in the advocacy space. It's not like an events page, if that makes sense. So I'm really happy to help you out on get your message out, get people to your events and really engage students at UNSW. That's my pitch. But just as a top level, I'll talk about Instagram, Facebook, and RedNote just because they are the most, I guess, relevant channels at UNSW. So Instagram, the most generic one, but in terms of who you're going to be engaging, it's going to be undergraduate students, typically onshore, but sometimes international students as well. It favors not just one photo, but a carousel of photos and short form video reels, if you weren't familiar. So that's what you're aiming for. Facebook is almost the opposite of that. It used to be quite popular in Australia, but nowadays it's kind of a dated platform. It's typically used by a lot of international students, typically from Southeastern Asia. And one specific function that is really useful for engaging those people, typically in the postgraduate space, is the events and groups function. So you can kind of form smaller communities that you can directly talk to, and I know they already exist and you might already been invited to them. Lastly, the newest one, which is RedNote. So if you aren't familiar, if I'm pronouncing it wrong, apologies, Xiaohongshu. It is a Chinese TikTok essentially, but not quite, but it is, but not quite. ARC recently released our version of an account on there as well, and so did UNSW last year or this year. Correct me if I'm wrong. But obviously typically engages Chinese students from mainland China. And what is really good about that one is it actually, weirdly enough, reaches students before they get to UNSW. So I know for study abroad students and people who are coming on exchange and stuff, it's really a good platform to engage them before they get here, especially when you're doing things like those early get-togethers and networking events to get people feel like they're part of a community before they actually reach the campus. Hopefully that makes sense. Any questions about social media in general? Amazing. Just to touch on other couple of things, obviously you will get access to EDM, which is electronic direct mail, which is basically email marketing. That will also come with a separate session to the website. If you see the PGC newsletter is run through us, and then I know the SRC has a monthly newsletter as well. Hopefully those continue because they are quite good and they do have quite good engagement. But again, you also have access to ARC's weekly newsletter. If you ever want to promote an event, please just let me know and chuck me a message. I can chuck it into there as well. The other one that I'll touch on is just ticketing for events. So if you weren't already aware, ARC has transitioned into using Humanitix. So it's our preferred ticketing platform. It's where you can set up all your tickets for your events, especially if you need to charge. It's quite important to have a platform rather than like cash transfers and things. For those that need it, please just message me. I can onboard you properly because it is a bit finicky and it can get a bit technical. The last thing I will touch on in this slide is just data and privacy. I think you have a session after me that is much more about the legalese and blah, 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 blah. But for me and from a comms perspective, maybe much more around this like email marketing area is just these 3 key points of data consent, data security, and data safety. And what I mean by that is in the recent years, I know you've all heard of like Qantas data leaks and Optus data leaks and stuff. It's much more important and it's much more critical that people keep people's private information or personal information secure because it is a huge deal having your data leaked. It can lead to a lot of issues, not just in the immediate term, but like it can appear 10 years down the line without you knowing. So always make sure that you're following these 3 key points of data consent. Make sure you're explicitly asking someone for their consent to collect their information. Even if it's just a first name or an email, please kind of make it explicit somewhere in your the record keeping that you keep that someone has ticked yes to something. The second one is security. Again, don't just keep it on your own laptop that can be stolen. Please upload it into Arc Transfer, any other solutions that's recommended to you. Again, because there are other layers that keep that data secure if your stuff gets stolen or hacked or whatever. I know it's such a like eye roll, but it is quite important. And the last thing is like data safety. I think that I've mixed some up, but again, the importance of data. Some things can be quite technical, especially if you have outreach for very specific or technical questions that you have, but hopefully that makes sense. I won't linger too much because I think the next section is a bit more on that. And the last thing that I'll touch on before I leave is responding to conflict online. So this isn't like to scare you or anything, but having had experience running through the wellness Instagram and things like that, there are times when questions come to you where you are just like, this is beyond what I am prepared to do. I just want to say that it is not your responsibility to directly help people, but because they've come to you as someone that they trust or can rely on as their SRC and PGC, please listen and just refer them onto a service or somewhere that they can get help. Again, just 3 short tips to take just so you're aware. Always listen and acknowledge the comment being made. Just be there to listen. Don't offer an opinion necessarily. Just know that you're sitting there just taking on information. The second one is to de-escalate. And I know that sounds a little bit weird, but try and take the conversation if it's like a Google review or a public Instagram comment, reply with something being like, please just DM us or send me an email here. It just takes the conversation offline. It makes that person, I guess, much more of a private conversation. And it becomes much more helpful engaging that one person who might be in distress or whatever reason. And the last thing is obviously refer to a service and or support that they need. The types of things that you may come across, not that I've seen it, but people can be in distress. People can just be mad. There are trolls out there. It has happened in the past. There are people that just don't care. It does happen, but it is not a huge deal. Just take it offline, just message them. Again, if you need help, please reach out to me. I'm really happy to help. And obviously, I'm sure we'll talk through the services and stuff that you can refer to later, but that is it from me. Any questions? Amazing. All right, thanks so much for having me.
There's no mic.
That's all right. Morning, everybody. Yes, it's working. Hello, I'm speaking loudly. Good morning, everybody. Okay. My name's David. I'm one of the two lawyers employed by ARC. So we have a number of different roles. We give legal advice to students about most of the common areas you'd expect students need assistance with, and we also do advice to students who are facing university disputes, grievances, misconduct, or just need advice about some of the matters that come up, as part of their study. A third role, which probably won't be as much interest to anyone here, is we also do a lot of internal work within ARC. So help clubs with matters that they're coming up with, review a lot of contracts, deal with insurance, and just deal with matters that come out of board as well. So, I said coming soon for financial counselling, but we recently employed a financial counsellor as well who is working with ARC a couple of days a week. So these are the main areas students encounter. Housing is always the biggest one, probably always will be. And then these other ones here that come up, from time to time. Visa and immigration is probably the second biggest one, and that's kind of the main area that I work in. So I trained as a migration agent several years ago, on top of what I'd been doing with ARC, so know the area reasonably well. Students face scams, needing to be helped with debts. They want help with recovering money from an employer that they might have worked for, who didn't pay them or underpaid them. They might want help with getting rental bonds back from the landlords that tend to prey on the student population, I guess. So that's the territory. And then as far as university-related help goes, at the moment, the biggest thing we seem to be helping students with is taking them through the fee remission process. So if they want to withdraw from a subject without academic and financial penalty, we help them, and we've seen some decisions made by the university that we weren't too keen on. So we've been helping students go through the review and appeal process as well. Around this time of year, misconduct is becoming a bigger issue. So students being caught cheating in assignments, unauthorized use of AI, and then as exam period starts, unfortunately, things do come up in exams as well. So, we can give students advice about how to, I guess, mitigate the consequences of what happened. And then just as the year begins, that's when the academic appeal season also starts. So students who are facing suspension or exclusion because they've dropped to a certain level of academic standing, they'll want help with presenting their appeals to the university committee that looks at those. And we do see quite a load of those students around early mid-January. Do a bit of policy advice. So university will sometimes tell us if a big policy review is happening, and that's kind of one of the areas that we work with. We've always worked with the councils on too. you know, that the the PGC and SRC might want buy-in from us, or we'd give them buy-in as far as those policy changes go. So in terms of what we might be able to assist you guys with any of these things, really, we do try to let the councils know about the areas that we're seeing more and more issues with, and fee remission's been a particular bugbear for us in the last couple of years. And like every so often, a protest to be organised or some other kind of campaign, and you know, you're welcome to contact us if you think we can give some useful advice on what happens with a protest or other kind of campaign. And so as far as accessing us, we're sort of on campus a few days a week, but pretty much always available in one form or another online as well. We ask students to join ARC if they want external legal advice. Sorry, if they want advice about an external matter from us. Pretty much anyone can access it if it's a university matter, or if it's a Centrelink matter. And yeah, you know, we try to be as available as we can. So, you know, feel free to contact us if you need, or if a student that you're talking to needs us as well. So the other, my colleague is Linda. So together we're the team, and that's our email address. That's all from me. Good luck with the year. Any questions? Floor is open. Cool. Thanks, Max. Cheers, thanks.
So you can reach out at any time via the email that David shared. You also get a copy of these slides as well as the recording after the session. So if you're unsure, you can also reach out there. So how are we feeling so far? Everyone's kind of had a break, had a refresh. We're ready to dive into like council administration and budgets. And it was like, sounds like a big scary thing. We're going to head into this kind of field now. So myself, Hannah, and Ellie, who's just popped out, she'll be back. We'll be taking you guys through this session here. Okay. But yeah, so council admin and budgets is the next session, and then we'll head into lunch after this. It sounds very exciting. So the agenda will just be about role administration. So accepting your role, which most of you will have received a letter of appointment, how to access ARC IT accounts and teams, as well as your insider website. So what the insider website is, I'll explain a bit later, is basically everything for the office bearers. So it's not public facing per se, it's just for you guys to get information and things as well. And then we'll talk about some council meetings, so attendance reports and like motions, so how to put forward a motion in a council meeting, what reports you need to submit as well. And then we'll talk about the budget. So every month you're given a certain amount by ARC to use on events, to use on your collectives as well. We'll talk about how you can use those, and if you don't use them, what you can do with the money that you don't use. Because obviously you don't want it to kind of go to waste. And then otherwise we'll talk about miscellaneous things like SRC spaces, font spaces, PGC spaces, printing process, and then some key dates like O week and stuff we've mentioned that you might want to start thinking about or planning for in council. So let's start with role administration. Number one is accepting your role. As mentioned, you would have gotten your letter of appointment in your emails already for both PGC and SRC. If you haven't for some reason, or it might have gone to spam, please check your spam mail. Or if you really can't find it, let myself or Hannah know. We'll be able to issue that to you again quite quickly. And the signing for those will be due 12th of December this year, as well as any training that is outlined on that letter of appointment. So that would have been any of the policies you have to read and sign. You would have received Elmo training link, which will take you through some modules as well, on like work health and safety, gendered violence, and like fraud and scam and things. For the presidents of the SRC and the PGC, you will have received a separate link for training regarding the ARC board, just as your capacity as ex officio directors on the board. You have gotten a little bit of extra training there as well. So make sure you complete those by 12th of December 2025, just to ensure that we have all your paperwork on board, and also to make sure that your honoraria, if you are receiving honoraria, is paid. So if your paperwork is returned after the 12th of December, we will only be able to pay you from 12th of December onwards. If you send your paperwork and all your training is completed before 12th of December, we'll be able to back pay you to your start date, which is the 1st of December. So it's about 2 weeks worth. So you want to be able to get that honoraria back paid to you. Your ARC account. So this is kind of continuing on from having finished your paperwork. Once you finish all your paperwork and your training, you'll receive access to your office bearer account. So that would be, you might have received emails from like src.president@arc.com or environment officer@arc.com. So all of those are your official office bearer accounts. You'll be given those once the changeover happens on the 30th of November, 1st of December period. If you sign your paperwork, you'll be issued with those passwords and emails, and you can just change the temporary password and you'll be able to, access those accounts and everything that comes with it. So that's access to Teams, access to the marketing site, as Alex mentioned before. So you'll be using these official logins to just log in and do all the things that you need to do there. So as you can see on the slide, so all official comms will be via the ARC accounts there, and then you'll be able to set up forwarding rules from the personal emails if you would like as well. If you have any IT issues during the initial handover period, they are bound to pop up. As you've seen, we've had IT issues this morning. Please reach out to service desk at arc.unsw.edu.au. So that is our IT team, and they'll be in touch shortly to help you sort out things. Otherwise, if you're unsure who to message, you can just email me and Hannah as well, and we can forward on your query to IT. Yeah, so next is our SRC and PGC Insider web pages. So as mentioned, these are like kind of your back end pages where you'll be able to like get all your forms. So forms for like expenditure, forms for reimbursement for events, and like any sorts of T's and C's that you need during your term. You'll be able to find them on these websites here. So once you get the slides, you'll be able to access and you can bookmark the page and see what it's like. Let's see if I can click on them and take you guys through what it looks like briefly. Let's see if it will let me again with you once the slides go up. All right, how are we feeling so far? Everyone kind of across where to find things? Great. Okay, so next we have just council meetings, so just attendance reports and motions. So for your council meetings, the number one expectation is to turn up to your meetings. Obviously, your presidents and things will want to see you, and everyone else will not want to know, what you've been up to and what they can help with as well. If you are unable to attend, obviously we understand that everyone's got things going on in their lives, classes, exams, family, personal things. Please submit your apologies 48 hours prior. So you would have seen on the insider pages an apology form. Submit that and your president and your GenSec will receive that prior to the meeting. Although we understand that last minute things can pop up. In that case, please just reach out with like an email, or if you know that the phone number of your president GenSec, just drop them a text saying, I'm an apology, I can't come to the meeting. For the SRC, when you submit your attendance form, if you're unable to make a meeting, you are able to nominate a proxy. So for motions that will be voted on, you can nominate a proxy, someone who will be able to carry your vote for you. And that will be on the form when you select the option, yes, I want to have a proxy. Yeah, so PGC, again, email to the president and GenSec. And there is in the regulations, for absences for 2 meetings shall result in a vacancy of position. What the definition of an absence, I know for PGC follows the regulations. For the SRC, there was a charter change recently, so have a read of your charter on what constitutes an absence. I think it was from memory, if you submit an apology but you don't submit a report, so you must submit a report as well as an apology for it to be counted as attendance. But please check your charter. I could be wrong. I remember there was a change there. So reports required from each member for each meeting. So there can be just what activities you've been going on or what initiatives you want to be working on. There'll be sections in the form that help you kind of guideline on what you need to write per report. They don't have to be very long. They can be as long or as short as you like. And I will be the admin team, so myself or Ellie or Hannah do reach out the week before papers are going out to remind you when the papers are due. So you don't have to stress about, oh, when is it due, when is it due? We will be on top of that and sending you guys reminders as well. In your meetings, we also, besides from reports, you also will be bringing up some motions. So we've got three types of motions. We've got discussion, decision, and noting. So an MFD for discussion is, as the name says, a discussion piece. So it'll be bringing the council together. Everyone gives their opinions. So no decision is made yet on those ones. You just kind of gather the opinions and it might come back in the next meeting as a decision sort of situation. The motions, matter for decision is, again, as the name suggests, something for voting. So these will require from the council's quorum as well as if there's any proxies as well. If you're unable to make it, submit the proxies for your vote to count on whether you want to you abstain or you want to vote for or against a motion. Matters for noting, so these ones again do not get voted on. They're just something that's popped up like a little FYI situation for the council as well, for like recent events or something that you know is coming up. Any late papers and reports. So occasionally there are late papers and reports, things that come in as between the week that the paper pack does go out versus the actual meeting itself. Some things may pop up, in which case any late papers and reports, just send them to your president and GenSec and they will circulate that to the council as well. So any questions on meeting process so far? Yes.
Just want to confirm, so you have submitted an apology.
Mhm.
Is it still done as an absence?
For the SRC, yes, the PGC charter is a little bit different. So I think the PGC, it's okay. But for the SRC, it's a little bit stricter just with changes that came in this year. So yeah, very good. All right, Ellie, welcome back. Okay, just in time, we'll be heading into the budgeting process now, which I'm going to hand over to Ellie, and she's going to explain how council's budget work, how accruals work, and how to manage your finances throughout the year. Very exciting.
Yes. Okay, hi everyone. I'm Ellie. I'm Shirley's assistant. I work pretty closely with Ash and Hannah to manage a few different things. I'm a little bit more behind the scenes from Ash. Most of the correspondence will be from Ash. You might see 1 or 2 emails in your inbox from me. But if you have any meeting requests with Shirley, you can send me an email or a Teams message and I'll get back to you. Okay, budgets. So they work on a monthly basis. You'll get allocated a certain portion of funds. Office bearers will get allocated a portion of funds as well as collectives. And then you can figure out amongst yourselves how you'd like to spend that either month to month or across the year. So we can talk a little bit more about accruals in a minute. So yep, the charter states that plans should be submitted for approval. So normally you'll have to go through your president to submit funds. You can also discuss amongst yourselves if you'd like to kind of team up and use funds across collectives or amongst your collective. The way that processing budgets works is via expenditure forms. So everyone should have been issued a form stack login, and you'll have to submit your spending via that way. So what you do is once you've kind of decided how you'd like to allocate your funding, you'll put it through, it'll get sent on to your president for approval, and then you can go ahead, spend that. If it's a small amount, you can generally if it's a small amount and it's a quick turnaround, you can process it like yourself, pay for it, and then submit a reimbursement. For larger funds, we generally recommend that you create an invoice and we'll pay that off through our financial system. So you can send that to Ash or Ryan, we can get that processed for you. Amongst this invoice, you'll need to get obviously a quote, put as much evidence as possible, just so your president is clear on what the spend is for, and then let us know which code it should be allocated to. So if it's going to be across codes or if it's for the specific collective code, and then we can process that for you. Try and make sure that the spending is approved first before you actually go and spend the funds, just to make sure that everyone's on the same page, your president's across it, and that you actually have the money to spend. Once you've approved it, once your president has approved it, then we can kind of talk you through the process if you're unsure about it. But it's all pretty straightforward, and we'll show you the process across the next slide. The other thing that's worked pretty successfully that we've implemented this year is accruals. So we generally, if you have a budget for, say, September, but you're not planning to spend until October, you can request us and we can accrue the funds, and then you can have like a collective budget for a specific event if that's what you're planning. We can also talk more closely with the presidents to see if they just like to kind of have the rolling funds. So any unspent funds can be accrued, and then you have the funds there for the next month if you're planning a larger scale event, or if you haven't accounted for specific funding, then you've got a little bit of leeway. Let's have a look at the process. So like I mentioned, it works with an expenditure form. So you'll submit that, it'll go to your president, and then you can make the purchase once it's been approved. Then you head back into FormStack, you submit another form and you say, yes, this expense has been approved. Here is my reimbursement, or here is my invoice for payment. Once that's been approved, it'll come through to us, and then we'll either process your reimbursement or process your invoice. We'll submit it into our finance system. It'll once again go through your president for one final approval, and then it'll be paid out by our finance team. Does anyone have any questions so far? No? Brilliant. A couple of other things just to keep in mind when going through this process. You can collaborate with other officers and councils. That's a really great way to kind of pull your funds together, have a little bit more in the piggy bank to actually execute the event. If you have a larger expense, once again, try and see if you can get an invoice for that. That way it doesn't come out of your own spending, and we can put that through pretty quickly through our finance system. If there's something that needs to be rushed, you have an invoice, but you have an event in a couple of days and it needs to be processed pretty quickly, please reach out to SRC and we can expedite that amongst our finance system. It generally does take, depending on the time of week that it gets, the time of the week it gets submitted, it can take a few days to a week to actually be processed. So if it's something really quickly that you need paid, please reach out to us. If it's roundhouse or home ground, given their ARC managed and run venues, we can help you out there. We can set up tabs for home ground. We can arrange catering through roundhouse, and you can generally get it a little bit cheaper compared to if you're just going as an off the street client. What else? Yep, there's also grants available. So if you need a little bit of extra funding that you can't quite find amongst your budget, you can apply for one of these grants, and we can also talk you through a little bit more if you want some more information on them. Try and plan as early as possible. So the budgets, like Shelley mentioned, are going to be approved in about a week and a half. Once that's ready to go, that'll be shared with you all, just so you know how much you have to spend. And then it'd be great if you can plan as far ahead as possible. It not only helps you, but it helps us help you. So if you give us a bit of an update on where things are, or if you have certain projects, we can help you out internally, arrange equipment or book certain things for you, and that can all be part of your event. Once again, please make sure you're getting president approval for everything. Sometimes this can be in the form of an email if it doesn't come through FormStack, but just make sure that we have that approval so we can process things as efficiently as possible for you. And yet payments occur on a Friday. So generally, if you can get it in kind of before the Friday, we've got some time to process it for you. Any questions, please reach out to Ash or I once you're up and running. And if you have any questions now, please let me know. Yeah, brilliant. Thank you.
Just a little bit back on the accruals process. A point I noted from last year was this one here about the cross-year accruals. So we know that when you're coming in December, and it's kind of the last month of the year, you're not looking to hold like a super big event, and you're thinking, oh, I have a lot of funds, maybe I want to put it towards next year. So that is possible on the point that you must have a payment obligation. So if you want to accrue the remaining of your budget from December 2025 into maybe January, February 2026, what you must make sure you have is, for example, an invoice or a quote, something that says that I'm definitely going to spend this money. Because from a finance and audit point of view, unfortunately, we can't just be accruing money for no defined reason. We're just putting money forward and forward and forward. So if you do know that your council or your office is looking to maybe make some merch or just put something for a week forward, make sure you get those quotes and invoices in, and we'll be able to advise finance to then accrue any remaining funds from this year into next year, and you might just get that little boost that you need if you're looking to purchase something that's a bit more expensive. Just a little tip on that one there. But yeah, other than that, we will move on to event planning and risk management. It's something that sounds very exciting, but I know, but it's something that we do have to go through. So let's start with just event planning. Number one tip is absolutely don't wing it. So don't try to wing it, get organized. We know event planning can be stressful. Sometimes they're very big events, a lot going on. You also have a lot going on as well. But the best thing is to get organized so you can kind of maybe just a checklist of things you want to do. So checklist or template, I've got one linked here as well that you can click on when you get the slides, but you can also just create your own. It can be a little, Word document or a sticky note system in your own place. Just something to help you kind of plan out what you need to do, who you need to reach out to, maybe the expense that this event will be, and any sort of risks and waivers that we'll talk about in just a bit. So for any events that the councils are planning, both PGC and SRC, it must be president approved. So the first step would be to reach out to your president. So that'd be Billy, that'd be Ada, being, hey, I want to run this event. Can I run it? And if it's a yes, then yes, you can keep planning. If it's a no, maybe it'll be like a, let's workshop this idea. Let's go back and see what we need to change to get that approved. Next is about the budget, and you can collaborate. So when you're having an event, you can collaborate with, as Ellie mentioned, other collectives. So we've had this year in the SRC, Paddington has collaborated with Ethnocultural to do like a pups and pastries event. I know that happened recently. So you are welcome to collaborate with other offices as well, pull your budgets together, and then pull also your reach. So you'll be getting more people to come to your events and things as well. So budget and then concepts wise, you can of course collaborate with each other. There's no need to kind of reinvent the wheel. We do have lots of support in place, as we mentioned, when the exec team came in, we've got sponsorship advertising, we've got staff in the wellbeing and student teams. So they're very well versed in running events, big scale events for students or small scale events even. If you need help, just reach out to ARC. We'll talk to anyone on the ARC team, and we'll be able to kind of help kind of give you a leeway, give you some guidance into who you need to talk to, where you need to go, and how this event can be run and how we can help you. Important is plan B is weather. I know with the Sydney weather as it is recently has been very up and down. We've had rainy days, we've had hail, we've had sunny days. So the important thing is to always consider weather for your event. If you're holding it outside, what can be packed away, what can be held outside, or if you can be moved inside entirely on the event of bad weather. So that is something to consider. You also need to identify and mitigate any risks early. So some events will come with certain risks, some will be very low risk, some will have a little bit of a higher risk. For example, if you're doing a barbecue, you need to consider, who's cooking, food and health safety, as well as the fact that there is a hot plate right in front of you and it'll be like burns and things like that. So it's very important to consider what the risks are and how you can do it to protect yourself, as well as protect these students who will be attending your events. If you need any marketing, as Alex mentioned, is to do that ASAP via the marketing form, which you guys will get access to. That will help marketing create any assets you will need, any sort of like social media releases that can help you promote your event as well. So the earlier you get in with any of this information, the more we can help you, and the less stress it will be overall. If you need any room booking, space booking, so that's either an outdoor booking, so you can book spaces on the quad, on the maid walkway, library walkway, you can do that as well. Those bookings go through UNSW estate management, so that has to be done pretty early in the sense that we have to approve it, and then estate management from UNSW has to approve it, and they do that on their own timeline sort of situation. So you want to get those in ASAP if you know you'll be wanting a quad space, for example. Room bookings are a little bit easier, as ARC is able to book CATS rooms like this internally ourselves instead of going through UNSW. So if you have any requests for a room, like you want to have a collective meeting, you can put that in and we can get that done for you. Obviously, the earlier as well, the easier it is to secure a room, because sometimes these rooms are booked out for classes, for exams and such. Event waivers, T's and C's. So sometimes you'll be holding events where you'll be taking students maybe off campus. You'll be doing whale watching or doing a vivid tour. Sometimes it's a networking event outside of campus, in which case you'll need to consider a few things. And whether you'd be needing, number one, is ticketing and registration. So for a whale watching event, maybe you'd be limiting it to maybe 20, 30 people. So you'd want to be considering how many tickets you need and how you would get those registrations. Humanitics, as Alex mentioned, is the platform that we can help you use, and that will help you streamline the ticketing process, and that will also allow you to house any T's and C's that you will require for those events as well. It'll also help you fill out if you need catering ordered, or if there's any sort of metrics that you'll need to measure as well, like how many people attended sort of situation. Those can be done when, those should be considered when you are doing your event planning. Next is submitting your event risk form, which the link will be in the next slide. So the event risk form is to determine a risk level. So is it a high risk, a mid risk, or like a low risk event? So if you have an event and it's considered, and there is an outside one, I think, for large scale outdoor events, that does get submitted to EM. So if you have an event on the quad that's going to be like multiple stalls, for example, multiple marquees, what you will need to do is submit a risk assessment form as well as I think a map of where things will go. That will go to EM as part of the approval process. They'll review it. If it's all good, they'll approve it. Or if they have notes, they'll come back to you. So again, best to get that one in quite early. If you have an event that requires ticketing, so maybe the council will subsidize a certain amount and then attendees will maybe pay a reduced ticket fee to an event. What we can do is reach out to our legal team. So again, David and Linda, reach out to them and they'll be able to provide you with like T's and C's about the tickets and like any sort of public liability insurance that you will require as well. They'll help you with that one. So you don't have to stress about those too much. Again, you can either reach out to them directly or if you're unsure, reach out to myself or Ellie. We'll be able to forward that on for you guys. Yeah, so Humanitics, I will just skip over that. We've kind of briefly talked about it. You have like a central account for SRC and PGC. And when you set up the event, you can list, the prices and where you can also list for finance where the ticket revenue will be going. And that can go into your GL or like the account for your specific collective for like education or enviro or research or coursework. You can actually put down specifics of where you want that income to go in the end. Make sure that on the Humanitics, you are using low barrier questions if you're asking to gather any sort of metrics or data from the students as well. Something that's just easily answered. So this is the list of the forms that you will be needing. I am noting for now that we are looking to change platform. So currently you would have received all your letters of appointments on a platform called FormStack. We are looking to migrate from that system now just with our licensing with them ending. So all these links are mostly on FormStack at the moment. They will work for your last term here. And then starting January 2026, I'll introduce and probably will send out an email about all the new links on the new platform when it's being determined. But they will all work largely the same. So when you've clicked through these, had a kind of explore around the new one, I will try to mirror as much as possible so it won't be very confusing at all. Okay, so here are the contacts of who do I reach out to in the cases of I need something. So if you need to book the Roundhouse for any events, you can reach out to Tiana Sarma here. So she works under Jason, who we unfortunately didn't get to see in person. Tiana will be able to help you with booking Roundhouse for events, whether that be PGC Town Hall, I know that happens every year, as well as I know SRC might have Queer Ball, so Roundhouse is your place to go. If you need resource bookings, reach out to ARC Reception, so that's marquees, that's tables or like chairs and things like that. They'll help you with those. For space room bookings, you can fill out the form or reach out to myself or Ellie. We'll put those through there for like CATS rooms. In-house printing, again, we'll run through that process quite shortly. Reach out to myself and I'll be able to help you with that. The budgets, your number one place to contact is your council president. They'll be able to help you kind of figure out how much is left as well as if the approval is done for those. So reach out to your president for those. Invoice payments, again, to me or Ellie. Insurance to ARC Legal, to David and Linda. Marketing, there is Mitch McBurney, who's unfortunately unable to join us today. They are our director of marketing and student experience, and Alex works under Mitch. So you'll be able to reach out to Mitch or Alex. Yeah, Tira, who you met today as well briefly, will be able to help you with any sort of design studio things. EDI projects will go through Emma, you would have seen a photo as well. And then sport, reach out to Dan Kwon. All of these links will be available to you and contacts will be available to you shortly. Okay, let me just grab a drink of water and then we will continue on some miscellaneous things that are also useful to know. Any questions in the meantime while I grab a drink of water? Are we all good to go? Okay, so just moving on briefly about SRC spaces. So we know that the SRC, you've got your quad space as well as the collective spaces that are just up the Bassett steps. So once you officially start, your swipe accesses will be enabled for the SRC quad space. You'll be able to swipe in. If that ever stops working at any time, do let myself or Ellie know. We'll get that fixed for you. Otherwise, the collective spaces are open to students at any time from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. A PGC space, so that is currently the PGC lounge, which ARC is currently housing ARC reception. After the renovations are complete, it'll most likely be reverted back to PGC lounge, and you'll be able to access that with your swipe as well, same similarly to the SRC. Printing. So when you want to print things for events, or you want to maybe there's like a rally you want people to attend or to be aware of, you can send an email to your president first with the draft of what you're planning to print. So if it's like poster, send it to your president and get that approval for it. And then you'll be able to submit a printing request form and put all the information down, how many copies you want, or like black and white, double-sided, all that information will be, you can submit. attach the approval email. A screenshot is fine. And then our reception will be able to print that for you. And then they'll email you when it's ready to collect. So the important part about printing is just making sure that we get as much leeway as possible, because our reception not only handles printing for the councils, but also handles printing for a lot of the clubs as well. So if you want to be making sure you're getting your material, your collateral on time, as early as possible, 2 days would be fantastic. Just so we make sure that that email is actually seen and you're not coming up to reception on the day you need it and it hasn't been printed yet. Of course, we can do last minute jobs. That is not impossible, but it's nice to, and a little bit less stress on both parties to have that in a little bit early. Lastly, it's just some key dates that to look out for. So we have today as the induction day, and then we have another induction on Thursday. So that will be run by largely UNSW teams. It'll be about, there's some leadership workshops. There's a workshop on just gendered violence awareness, as well as a response to help you guys kind of get across the sphere of that, and the introduction of the national code, which is coming in, I think early, Hannah, correctly? Is it this year?
I think it's
the national code, which has gone through Parliament, and then a well-being workshop just to check in on you guys, make sure everyone's okay, and know that you have places to reach out to if you ever need assistance. Your first meeting for the SRC and the PGC is TBC. So what I'm going to ask the councils to do when you split into your afternoon sessions today is to kind of talk amongst yourself and decide on a first meeting date. So that'll be your first official council meeting, and it'll be a longer form of what you're doing this afternoon. Handovers, ASAP. I know a lot of you have already reached out to your counterparts and are already getting those done. If you have difficulties reaching the current officer by any chance, just let me know and I'll be able to connect you with them. O week is next year. It is very, very soon, under 90 days. It's 9th of Feb to 12th of Feb. So it's a date to keep in mind if you want to be running SRC stalls, PGC stalls at O week. Start planning now. It is coming up quite soon. And then after O week, we have Discovery Fest, previously known as Launch Week. So you might have heard Launch Week before. It is another event that you might want to consider having a presence at. So keep those dates in mind. You can have stalls, you can have rostering, and like any merch or collateral you'll need. Any questions for the time being, just on council administration in general? A lot of it, this sounds like a lot, I know, but it will be something that you'll kind of come across as you're progressing through your role. And it's not as hard, it's not as stressful as it does seem. I just would like to introduce Hannah here, who's our governance manager, and she assists me in looking after the councils. If you have any sort of questions to do with like policies, governance, or like some legal related things, Hannah is your go-to. She's going to run through your grievance process, and I'm going to go get your lunch. I'll be back shortly. Thank you, Hannah.
Thank you. So I'm Hannah, and I joined only recently, and this isn't my alma mater. I didn't come through here. I got my PhD at ANU. I had many years of study. I've also had many years of participating in governance processes, non-government organisations, working in the public sector, looking after national councils and so on. Can I ask by show of hands, who amongst you has been involved as an executive member or a non-executive member of a board or committee previously or currently? A big hand, I can't see you. So 4 people, 5, sort of, 4.5, 5 people. Okay. This is the most amazing opportunity for you to learn about good governance, because in whatever role in your life going forward, it's a skill to have. For the postgrads, your P&C association, you'll be there, you know, when you have visitors, it'll be very useful. If you're involved in bush care or park care or whatever, the resources that are available to you here are amazing. So you'll be swamped with information, and I've been watching you. Some of you are perhaps looking at the slides on your phone, but please do keep a copy of the slides so that when you need to reach out, you can find who you need. Now, just a little bit of recap. Tell me, if there's a grievance, who would you go to first to try and resolve the grievance? Or what would you do? What's your first kind of reaction to a grievance? And what do we mean by a grievance? And I watch your meetings online. The PGC is very polite, very lovely. SRC, not so. So, if you're having a heated political debate and it gets out of hand, what do you do? And who might you go to? Come on, I want to hear from you. You were given some hints this morning, so this is a recap.
Talk to the president.
Talk to the president, okay. So you go to the top. I need help, right? What did you hear this morning? And from whom did you hear it? About what do you do if you've got conflict with someone on the council, on any of the councils, or a student who's harassing you because they're really cranky about what's going on at UNSW or in their broader life? That's step 2. What's the first step?
Acknowledging the conflict.
Exactly. So I work as a mediator for some days of the week. And how do you de-escalate? It's called reflective listening. So if someone comes to you with a grievance, you acknowledge their point of view. You say, oh, so you're saying that you've tried that person, or I've really annoyed you. Can you just help me understand what I've done to make you so upset? I can see how upset you are. That simple act of acknowledgement will de-escalate. Okay, so you don't want them. It's fight or flight. Someone will come to you, they're cortisol, something through their body, they're full of adrenaline. They really want to take you down, and you just want to calm them down and say, look, I'm hearing you, you acknowledge their concern, and then you think about who's the most appropriate person. And it could well be the president. The president has probably dealt with these situations before, but it might also be your slides, which will tell you where you go to. Now, the person who said acknowledgement was Alex this morning. So he's in the marketing team. But we also heard from, who did we hear from about wellness and mental health? Yep. Yep. So if someone is harassing you or saying, I'm being followed around campus and I'm really scared, or they're really anxious and they're not sleeping and they're kind of spooked because it's all just overwhelmed. It's all too much. And we all have those moments in life when things just get out of hand. So what would you do if you had someone that you thought might not be very well at the moment? What would your first reaction be if someone's presenting to you in a very agitated, distressed, aggressive state, but you've got concerns that they're actually not very well? And 1 in 5 over life will have some sort of mental health crisis. And you might have all experienced it before an exam or before major assignments are due. That overwhelming sense of anxiety. So what do you do if someone comes to you very distressed with a grievance? What do you do? Okay.
Refer them to step from the relevant mental health services.
Okay, referral. What's your first step?
Listen.
Pardon?
Listen to others.
Exactly. It's exactly the same. These are people who are in distress. So you listen, you acknowledge, you say, look, I can see how upset you are about this. Can you tell me more? And then as they come, all you to say, okay, can we take a breath? Big breath, breathe out. Can we take 5 breaths? Just relax, just chill. And that also de-escalates the situation. Because We've got a lot of information on these slides, but you don't want to be racing off to lodge a formal grievance process. And what are some concerns you might have if you're thinking it's going to escalate and it's going to go into a formal process? What would you be worried about? What are some considerations? Legal? Okay, who would you go to if you've got a legal concern? Art legal? The most important thing David didn't say was that his services are both expert and free. But all of you know how hard it is to get good access to justice, access to legal. So art is one. Where else would you go? Ashton Chamber? Ashton Chamber? The inside pages, the art leadership team, all the services, support services on campus. And you can always go and talk to somebody who can give you advice on how to respond to somebody who is harassing you, giving you, or asking you for support. And they might be a friend. You might be someone they trust, where they're opening up about their psychotic situation. But if they're very florid and they're just, these things happen, sometimes people become very, very aggressive if they're having a psychotic attack. Then you need different kinds of help. And it's not necessarily going to result in a form of grievance. But the question was, what are the kinds of considerations that go through your mind if you're wanting to lodge a formal grievance, or you have someone who's got a grievance and it's against you? As president of the SRC or as president of SRC or PGC or any other member of council, what are the kinds of things you might want to think about before you react? Apart from the acknowledgement, the de-escalation, the grieving, what other considerations might flow through your mind? Conflict of interest is one, yeah. You could say that I can't talk to you because I actually know that person, or they might brother or sister or whatever, I can't help you. That's pretty rare, I would think, in these kind of situations. But what else? What would be going through your mind, the grievance process?
Not serving this myself.
Not
Doing this myself. Like
alone. Yeah, getting back up, getting advice before you react. Yeah, what else? What if someone's really agitated, really distressed? What parts of acknowledging, listening, reflecting, what do you think about? Okay, when you talk to people, we think, how is what I'm going to say going to land on that person? What sort of impact is it going to have? Is it going to freak them out? Is it going to set them off? So how you listen, but also how you talk back to someone is going to determine whether you're going to go on an escalation trajectory or you're going to calm down. And a good technique is to say, look, I'm hearing you, I acknowledge you. Can we just park this issue when we make a time later in the week? Let's exchange contact details. I'll get back to you. I promise I'll get back to you, and it's really important to live up to that. But that will give you time to get advice from all the various great services that ART provides, including stepping the wellness team, the legal team. You can come to us, the governance team, and say that we've got this issue. It might be something to do with the rules of rules of procedure, or under the Constitution, or any number of things that you might not know about. And Ellie is the most amazing source of wisdom. Because of her corporate knowledge, having been here for so many years, and because of the person that she is. And most situations that we've had, Ellie has had a similar experience in the past, and she will draw on that to give guidance. So please don't feel shy about reaching out. But the insider pages that Ash mentioned on the website, can I just ask, who of you have read editing skills? No. Okay, so you're hearing language like students at the centre, this is yours to learn. You know, it's also a precious resource. So you'll be given limited access. But one of the worst things that can happen as a novice is that you corrupt something, or they'll sort you out. But the IT team there is great, and you will be walked through it if you ask for help. And it's a great skill to have going forward in life. So you're all really, really busy. You've got wider lives, but make the most of uni, because it really will equip you going forward.
Now, grievances. So disputes, incidents, and so on. Yeah.
Issues, etc. Now, elected members are responsible to ARC's policies and procedures. From this morning, what are some of our policies and procedures? Remember any of them? Okay, in this context, safer spaces. We've got a safer spaces policy or safe space policy. We've got policies on gender-based violence. So many of you have done your training, right? But think through what were those little video training sessions that you did. Those policies are very wordy, but they are really important, especially for grievance procedures. We do have there is a university-wide process, but there's also internal ARC processes for when you have grievances. And I'm not an expert on grievance resolution other than mediation. If you go to a formal procedure, it means that in some respects it's the conflict seen as standing early on. Because when I was asking earlier about what sort of things might go through your mind, you'd all know about whistleblower protections, and if you go formal and you put your head above the parapet, sometimes the person who comes worst out of the grievance process is the complainant. If you lodge a grievance against somebody, or if you react badly to someone lodging or having a grievance, and hopefully you can resolve it informally in the first instance, but the consequence, you've heard, what did David talk about? It's exam time now. So what are the sorts of UNSW people that would deal with formal grievance processes? UNSW misconduct? Yeah, I only became aware of this recently, but misconduct actually gets listed on your transcript. So that means if you have a misconduct, and plus that can disentitle you from sitting on councils, serious misconduct. But that will, if you've got a nasty employer that asks to see your transcript rather than takes your word for your qualification, or it doesn't just accept your scanned degree, you need a copy of your WPLC degree, certification, career certificate. If they look at your transcript and they see that you've had misconduct, that's not going to go well for your future employment, is it? And in terms of the parallel situations, if you get a criminal record, in some jurisdictions, they expire, and that you've got your privacy back, and you don't have to disclose if it was more than 10 years prior, especially if it was a relatively minor offence. You haven't gone to jail, you didn't have a criminal record from jail period, etc. But for overseas students, you know how many people could be put in disappeared into a jail system without necessarily having actually committed any wrong. But in our system, hopefully it's not quite so bad, but so spent convictions disappear after 10 years in some states. It's not yet national, I don't think, but your transcript is there for life. I don't know if you can actually get it amended. So the sorts of consequences you might want to think about before lodging a formal complaint against somebody or before escalating something. Some people are really high conflict personalities and others not. And some of you on SRC who are really highly charged conflict, then you might apply. But it can have consequences if it gets out of hand. Yeah? And then I think in Parliament, it's really us and them. The best way to get things done is to collaborate, to get your mediation skills. It's not tribal. The other side isn't necessarily the enemy, but it can seem like that sometimes. Okay, so SRC Charter. What did Ellie say was the basis of our policies and procedures and how we interact with each other? What was her key word? Do you remember? It all boils down to, she said, it all boils down to respect. We need to respect each other. We need to listen to each other. We need to be kind to each other. She didn't say that, but kindness goes a really long way. So SRC Charter talks about respect. Please have a look at it. It sets the guidelines for how you interact with people. And the Safer Spaces procedure, what's that about? Has anyone heard of that? Safer Spaces. Yeah, and what's the essence of those rules? Think of the values, values. Students at the centre, have some fun. What are others? Ellen?
Sorry.
We're talking about the art values, okay? So inclusion. We don't want to discriminate against people because of their culture, their political beliefs, their religious preferences, their sexual preferences. You're inclusive, and we have safe spaces where you have safe conversations. You don't want to have fights. Now, determine if the grievance is council related. So we get a lot of emails from really distressed students who will have a beef with UNSW in some respect, or they have questions and they're upset about something that's going on at home and they've got to get early graduation or whatever it is. And they write to the PGC or they write to the SRC. So have any of you handled any of those? Some of you could repeat flyers, who've been in these roles before. How do you react? How do you respond to those? Apart from acknowledging with me. What do you do? You've all said it probably 3 times before, just in the last half hour. It wasn't acknowledged and then was served. So it's not a council-related grievance, and it lands in your inbox as council president. Then you say, look, I'm really sorry for what's going on. I can't help you with this. You actually have to go to UNSW, whatever, you know. And those emails, I don't know quite what the system is, but Ash, Ellie, I think if we're on a distribution list, so we get some of them. I think you have access to that list, and people can jump in and answer it. Yeah, or it might have been copied to you and then you answer it in your capacity as a non-official email. But I think it would be helpful if we knew that you've already answered it, or if you CC us, because then we might have supplementary information, or we can answer it on your behalf. Okay. So if it's not council related, you don't need to deal with it. You can just refer it, or Art can refer it on for you, the relevant people in Art. You don't create your own grievance resolution framework. You can, all the advice in the slides is that you do try and talk to the person who's got a grievance. So you try and park it for a bit, delay the meeting till they're calmer. Then you work out what would be the most appropriate venue. Would it be over within the bubble tea, shop, or would it be going for a walk? Going for a walk is a really good way to have a meeting with someone, because it's just a broader horizon out there and they tend to calm down. Or it could be in an office. There's plenty of workspaces around, but really important thing, remember we talked about privacy earlier. So you don't want to be having conversations about grievances in front of others. I was coming up the steps the other day and there was a guy standing over a girl, a young woman, saying, I do want to treat you with respect, but I expect you to treat me the same way. And you're not doing that. But he was really leaning into her and being quite aggressive, and it sounded like they were having a relationship too. Now, in terms of gender-based violence policy, how should I view that going past, walking past, seeing a situation that potentially escalate? How would I, as a bystander, react to that? This guy had a grievance with his partner.
Politely kind of go into the space and just say, hey, are you okay?
Yeah, are you okay? And that would be, that's my way. I actually walked past him and said, what would you have done then? She's been to one like a grandmother. And I don't want to be intervening where I'm not wanted. And Ash said I probably would have been. Because it didn't seem to us. So safe spaces, we don't want people intimidating or harassing or putting the hard word on or touching up others without consent. They're teaching that now in daycare. Private spaces, you're entitled to feel safe and have bodily intimacy. Okay, so always ask for help if you aren't sure, and there's lots of resources around. Next slide, please. And I'm not going at the same pace as the others because I was told we've got 45 minutes to finish. So we wanted to hear from you. Okay, how is the time, by the way? Yeah, okay, we'll wrap it up. Okay, so there are different procedures. Work health and safety is quite specific. Procedural operational is specific. So in terms of escalation, often it ends up in CEO. There are numerous committees around that you can deal with it, or you can have informal resolution. Go to council president, which is young gentleman here said earlier. That's the option if you've got grievances within the council or amongst council representatives. Can I just encourage you as a way of avoiding conflict is to get your emotions up when you go to a meeting. Like sat on the Heritage Council, very good chair. He would ring around every member of the council and he'd say, look, I just want to run something past you, see what you might think about that, which is the impacting on others, right? So you can caucus, you can informally liaise, and that will prevent an escalation possibly in your council meetings. So you can have informal resolution. You can encourage someone to go and get training. You can request support from others. You can issue a formal warning can be issued, and that's also quite a serious thing, which can have deleterious effects that people might want to get back at you down the track, and you can escalate it. Or you can escalate it, come to us, and then appeal to the chair of the board. Okay, next slide. There is bullying, harassment, discrimination. Again, if it's not a really serious incident, but it has a potential, you can try and informally resolve it. You can report someone in writing to the president of your council. And bullying can happen. Does anyone want to share a recent incident with the campaigning? What's happening? Or should we leave that private? We'll leave that private? Yeah. So, bullying, harassment, discrimination is not respect, okay? And it shouldn't happen on campus. And if everyone has their human rights and that they are worthy of recognition and respect. If you have queries about that, or if you are being discriminated against, you go to ARC Legal. There's any number of community legal services or legal aid who will give you a free call usually. Give you a free advice on their call line, or you can go to the human rights bodies, as New South Wales and federal. If you feel you are being discriminated or harassed on the basis of one of the protected attributes. But internally, David and Linda would be your go-to, and it's rampant, if I might say that. So if you know Indigenous students, if you know students of whatever diversity, unfortunately, discrimination is pretty rampant. And if you're not being taken seriously, when you have a concern and you go to someone in a UNSW situation, like Dave mentioned, there are some decisions that were taken in response to grievances that they, as lawyers, weren't happy with. So then you've got the appeal rights and you've got the free legal support there to help you with that. Okay, the last one, the outcomes, I think this is the last slide. The outcomes can be official warning, further training, referral to mediation, suspension of allowance or removal from the council. One thing that was mentioned before was the absences. And there is a rule that if you're absent from council for 2 meetings without giving an apology, and there's slightly different rules for the 2 councils, but if you're solving, you've got a grievance, or someone's not coming, one of the first things that breaks down the conflict is communication. If people don't listen, they don't acknowledge, they put up the wall, and I'm not going to talk to that person. And this, I see this all the time as a mediator. So they just refuse to do it. Okay, now that's a very bad situation, and you don't want that to happen. If you stay away for yourself, you're not talking to someone after two meetings, I don't think ARC is that strict, but if it's 3 or 4, you might lose your your seat on the council. And believe me, your honoraria is so generous. When I heard about your honoraria, I thought, oh my goodness, I've been volunteering for 20 years in different roles and I not once got paid. And you don't even get taxed on it. So, you know, the perks that you have access to are quite amazing as UNSW students and ARC members. But they're also, you're going to get taxed. I mean, personally, you're going to have to, it's going to be tough, and I admire you all for taking it on. Okay, so safer spaces, please do look at that. No one, especially roundhouse events, any events where things get relaxed or, you know, with behaviour, people act in ways they wouldn't in a more formal environment. Just please be aware of boundaries and what is acceptable and what isn't, so that if someone does come to you with advice, you can refer them to the right policy and give them guidance. These are all the consequences of breaches of the safe spaces. I'd like you to agree with those. Have you guys got time to do that? Have you got time in addition from the training to read all the policy?
Yeah, the safer spaces is included in their letter of appointment. So that's something that they'll be able to read. And you can refer to it anytime as well. It's linked on the SRC pages.
Yeah, okay. And if you can't find anything, just ask Ash.
Yeah.
Okay, so any questions?
Can I just ask, those who had a good morning tea, there were some people who missed out earlier. Can you let them go first, because they might be rumbling? You know, maybe you're not a float, you might want to have lunch break. Okay, thanks everyone.
All right, so we'll have our lunch break now. Thank you so much for attending the first half of inductions. The second half will be with your councils. And so after lunch break at maybe like 1:50, if you want to start heading down towards Lawrence East for SRC, and then PGC is quad. I'll leave this up on the screen. You're welcome to start heading down. You're also welcome to start grabbing lunch.